Hi, Miguel. It was great to see you earlier on the main stage. You were in Griffith Park with Beth, and so how are you feeling?
I'm tired, but I'm excited. I'm like I get up at 5 in the morning every year on this day to do that hike through Griffith Park, and then it's just nonstop after that. But nonstop in a good way because it's
Yeah.
usually kids just swarming our booths, and we're talking to a bunch of excited people. But this year it's different, but it's cool too because I'm still engaging with people virtually
Totally.
and talking about pumas and urban wildlife, which is what I love to talk about.
Yeah, I just felt so much gratitude watching the main stage today. I know it's been stressful for a lot of us who've been helping to plan this event and make it such a success. And so to actually see all the interviews, and it's just so great. And it's been such a hard year. So it's wonderful that this is happening. It's a good thing. And so, yeah, so I figure I was going to read your bio, but we're already a few minutes into this. So I
Yeah.
wonder maybe if you can just tell the audience a little bit about yourself to kick us off.
Yeah, my name is Miguel Ordeñana. I'm a wildlife biologist and educator at the Natural History Museum. Specifically, I am a manager in the community science office, which means that I'm kind of a liaison between our research department and the public, and getting the
Mhm.
public to partner with us on research projects. My background is I grew up here in LA, and really didn't have a great connection with nature because of a lack of education, especially regarding urban wildlife. And so I feel very fortunate enough to have a career in this, despite all the obstacles that were in my way, and hopefully make an easier path for the next generation that also look like me, want to pursue a career in urban wildlife conservation and or education.
Totally.
So yeah, happy to be here.
Thanks, Miguel. And I see so many people, so many new faces joining us as well. So, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Karina Domingo, and I'm the founder and director of the Cougar Conservancy. So, we're a nonprofit organization based out of Los Angeles, California. And our mission is to reduce human wildlife conflict, or on the other side, it's just to promote and help people coexist with cougars like P22, bringing it back to P22 Day. And so we had a lot of questions that actually came in for you, Miguel. People pre-submitted some questions, but as a reminder to everybody listening, if you have questions throughout our program, pop them in the comments there. And shout out to Cheryl Schroeder today. She's going to be helping us kind of manage all the different questions from you all. So thank you, Cheryl, for helping in the background. I can kick it off with a few from the audience, but also I think maybe for some background, Miguel, it'd be great for you to talk a little bit about how you got into mountain lion conservation specifically.
Yeah. Yeah, sure. It definitely was unexpected. I definitely was pursuing a career in urban carnivore conservation because that was just a relevant topic for me because I was inspired to pursue my career, partly due to my accidental interactions with urban carnivores like coyotes that would roam through my neighborhood and
Yeah.
raccoons, etc. And so now and then I pursued that through the traditional route of eventually getting a master's degree in ecology and focusing on urban carnivore um, conservation as part of my thesis. And building up to graduate school, I was getting experience studying
Hmm.
bobcats in Irvine, California, and really got my feet wet in camera trap research, and which has been my go-to ever since. And camera traps are motion activated cameras that are triggered by motion or heat and
Awesome.
take a video or photo of the animal. And so I was already kind of doing that. And then I really wanted to pursue a project in Griffith Park because I grew up right across the street from Griffith Park, and it was an
Hmm.
inspiring place for me. And so I wanted to study whether or not, some other biologists, to study whether or not Griffith Park was an island. So if you're a wide-ranging animal like a deer or a
Hmm.
coyote, you need more space than what Griffith Park has to offer. So we wanted to see if it was connected to the Santa Monica's. And out of nowhere during our study, after kind of proving that animals were crossing over the 101, we got this, or I saw the very first photo of a mountain lion in Griffith Park, which is now known as P22, and which stands for Puma 22, and the 22nd Puma ever studied in the LA area. And it was like, I see this, I've probably said this probably 100 times since.
I love it. Please say it.
It was like seeing Bigfoot or La Chupacabra for the very first time, because I have no other way of describing it better than that, because it was truly seeing something that was a myth. People would talk about it, send photos, and they'd be like their house cat,
Yeah,
or dog. And scientists were like, no, that's never going to happen. The mountain lions are just too separated by freeways to get from Griffith Park. And then we get this photo and blows all our minds, scientists included. And then his how he figured out how to get into Griffith Park, and then him surviving for now 8 years in this park that gets thousands of people every day, and proving to everybody but that we can even coexist with the most controversial species out here in LA, if we just give them their distance and we know how to act appropriately. And I think that's kind of the message he's given me. He's inspired me to kind of pursue research a little bit differently, being more engaging, value these wildlife ambassadors, value these tangible stories, get the community involved in this conservation effort, and partner with organizations like the Cougar Conservancy that are acting as liaisons between scientists and the public who have to live alongside mountain lions all over the state.
We have an interjection here from Destiny. Destiny works at the Fishing Cat Conservancy, and she's saying that P22 just wanted to go to the playground.
Hey, maybe. Yeah.
So,
I wish I could read his mind.
The merry-go-round. So we did get a question from someone who's been following and working for a very long time on mountain lion conservation, specifically reaching to the community and being an interpretive ranger. Mithra from the National Park Service is wondering, since P22 is getting older and he most likely won't find a mate in his lifetime, have the biologists talked about saving his genetic material to artificially inseminate a female mountain lion in the region so his spirit can live on with P22 kittens? What a question. What a question.
You heard it here first. I think that's an awesome idea. I mean, he's a handsome individual. Sadly, he will likely never mate in his lifetime. And we're not quite sure what his genetics are like, because they only were able to match his dad's genetics. So we don't know how helpful his genetics will be, other than keeping P1, who is his dad, P1's legacy going. But I mean, it's an idea. I mean, we're in a weird situation where these pumas are trapped between our main population, the Santa Monicas, are trapped between the ocean and freeways, interbreeding, and already showing physical defects from inbreeding. And so we have to kind of think about these things, either moving pumas in maybe someday. Hopefully we don't get to that point. Or saving genetic information like that, like zoos do, and prepare for the future.
This is a great, oh, sorry, Miguel, go ahead.
No, yeah. But my hope is that we build this bridge that will be a lifeline to this population, and hopefully, if it's built in a timely fashion, we won't need to get to that point.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, that was going to be my segue question as well to you, but you hit the nail on the head getting to the crossing, because the crossing is actually, it's happening. I mean, that's what this day is all about. And so donations are currently being matched today up to $10,000 for the crossing. So if you guys can and have the ability to donate financially, please visit SaveLACougars.org to donate. The money goes towards this wildlife overpass. And so that brings me to a question a lot of the audience is asking is when will they start to build the bridge over the freeway? When is this going to happen? How close are we to getting there?
Yeah, I mean, we have some big financial hurdles to jump over first, but I think it's possible. There's people with the means, the people that are talking the talk, that they're conservation advocates, wildlife advocates that have a lot of money out there.
Like philanthropists. Kind of money.
$30 million will get your name on that bridge. I mean, that's the truth.
Yes, yes.
And that's kind of where we're at. We're hoping that some organization or philanthropist steps up to the plate and really makes a mark for urban wildlife conservation and preserves their future. But yeah, that is a hurdle, but we're very optimistic, and you have to be, because if not, then you'll lose steam, lose momentum, and you won't make this happen soon enough. And so I think the goal is to break ground next year, 2021. It's not going to be built in 2021, but hopefully at least get started if we get the donations we're after.
Yes. So if we are on target with finances, 2021, maybe we'll hit the ground running. And I think that the projections were that it may be built by the end of 2023. And so we're close. We're really close to doing this. I know that I first started getting involved in this work during the first ever P22 day, actually, and it's the 5th annual. So it hasn't, it's been a long time, but it hasn't at the same time. So patience, these things take a long time to do, and we're actually doing it very fast. And with all of you sharing and talking to your family and your friends and your neighbors about the Save LA Cougars campaign and conservation issues surrounding urban wildlife in general, you guys are also helping. So there's lots of ways to help, and spreading the word is definitely one of those ways. So yes, if you have questions for Miguel, continue to pop them in the chat here. We have some other ones asking, what impact will the crossing have on P22?
Unfortunately, none, because he crossed out of that area as a young male to escape his dad, basically, and he made the crossing. So he's more of an ambassador for the project, because he lives in Griffith Park, which is pretty far away from Magura Hills, which is where that Liberty Canyon exit or crossing will be made. So, but it'll help his relatives, and if he has any left at this point, and the population he's connected to. So yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's what a lot of people also ask a lot about is, why are you guys spending all of this time and energy to advocate for one species? And so can you talk a little bit about, like, maybe even a lightning round of how mountain lions and these charismatic species become umbrella species or flagship species for certain causes? Because the crossing's not just for mountain lions, right?
Yeah, that's a very, very important point. And large carnivore conservation always kind of gets that reputation of just going after protecting one species. But when you protect an umbrella species like a big carnivore, whether it's a jaguar or puma, you're protecting a wide-ranging animal that has a big territory. And so,
and a lot of needs, right?
What was that?
And a lot of needs.
Yes, exactly. And so, but even just sticking to like the space needs alone will protect a lot of other animals and populations of species that don't need as much space or resources as a large carnivore. And so by helping a population of mountain lions, helping a lot of animals. And so that's also related to this bridge. A lot of people think it's just for mountain lions to cross and that's it. And it's not. It's for a lot of animals that are facing connectivity issues, and scientists have documented that birds are facing barriers by that 101 freeway. Salamanders could cross over, and multiple generations of salamanders could benefit from more connectivity. And coyotes, bobcats, they're also showing really that they are facing barriers from this freeway, social and genetic or biological barriers. And so by building this crossing, you're going to sustain the future for a lot of different species that keep this ecosystem healthy and intact. So, and also, I mean, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Mountain lions are charismatic. They get people's attention. They are going to bring in money for populations, for geographic areas that might not get it if their ambassador is some less charismatic species. So totally. I think, yeah, let's celebrate that we have that opportunity still, at least for now, to use these animals to kind of carry us to the finish line for connectivity in this area.
That's great, Miguel. Yeah, and I think that the next question kind of hits on this as well. As you know, people want to know, is P22 directly going to be impacted by this crossing? But these issues are also not just in this specific area, but these connectivity issues happen a lot throughout, especially the state of California. And so someone is asking here, where did it go? Are wildlife able to cross from Griffith Park to the Verdugos and then the San Gabriels? And should corridors be built there too? And so for people tuning in from other places, you know, the Griffith Park is close to another home mountain range, which is the Verdugos, which is right next to the San Gabriels, which is this huge mountain range. And so let's not spend a lot of time on this, but do you want to hit on that just for a moment?
Yeah, I mean, there hasn't been any proven connectivity between Griffith Park and the Verdugo. There is the Verdugo Wash, which is a potential corridor in between Griffith Park and the Verdugos. But as far as how successful it is and how used it is, we don't know. There is a lot of urbanization there. It's going to be frank, like Burbank is really built up. And if animals were easily able to kind of get from Verdugos over, we'd see other animals in Griffith Park, like bears maybe, and so it's an interesting idea, and that was eventually going to be a next step for the Griffith Park connectivity study, to look at connectivity issues that direction. But yeah, we never got around. It's an important question, but as far as between the Verdugos and the San Gabriels and even the San Rafael Hills, which are next door to the Verdugos, it's important to notice that those connectivity issues are important, because there are mountain lions, Verdugos. San Rafael Hills also supports mountain lions, bobcats, etc. And we want these lifelines for these animals, and these little oases, even though they're not as big as San Gabriel's, they do serve a purpose, and they are worth preserving and connecting. Organizations like Royals Foothills Conservancy do a lot of great work advocating for that, and great advocates like Cougar Magic, and yeah. So
yeah, I want to hit on that too. Thanks for bringing up Arroyo Foothills Conservancy as well, because I wanted to touch on this question a little bit too, because there is such a data gap, like Miguel is saying. We've partnered with AFC on a paper that's supposed to come out probably this fall sometime. And what we did is we used a multi-species connectivity model for certain terrestrial mammals in the area, in order to inform land managers and city managers on not only potential corridors that they already could potentially be using, how can we, you know, enhance the ones that already exist, and where potentially to put new corridors in the future. So that's a great question. I love that you guys are thinking about that, because again, this issue is not just in the Liberty Canyon area, although that crossing really does need to go up as well. So great questions. I want to ask more of a personal question here too, because there's a great one here from B. Riceful, asking about what was your career and educational path which led you to the position you're in today?
Yeah, try and keep this short. It's a long one too, but it's
important though.
Yeah, so I started off at Florida State University. Didn't really get what I needed from that university. transferred to USC, which is here in LA, and got a degree in environmental studies because I wasn't happy with the biology major. And so it was just too specific, too narrow. And I know that there's a lot of social influences to conservation. And so I really wanted to expand
Yeah.
the scope of my studies. And so that's why I focused on environmental studies, majored in that. Didn't really know how. I still was kind of preparing myself for a career like as a zookeeper, because that's how I grew up, learning how to kind of work with animals, or opportunities to work with animals in the middle of cities. As you can imagine, all the zoos are usually in the middle of these city hubs,
Yeah.
near downtown or the middle of the city somewhere. And so, like, if I want to keep living in the city and work with animals, I guess the zoo's it. And so, but then I saw a poster on the wall for a opportunity to study abroad in Africa, in Kenya, and signed up. And fortunately, I had the opportunity. I was accepted to the program my senior year of
Oh,
college, which is
awesome.
really late in your career. If you know what you're doing and you get great mentorship, you should get experience much earlier than that. But that's
Right.
my story, is that I went to Kenya for 3.5 months, understood finally what wildlife biology, wildlife research was, and then learned about human wildlife conflict,
Yeah.
and with the similarities and differences in conflict with wildlife across the world, and then had a lot of catching up to do. So I had a lot of volunteering that I had to do. I was encouraged to go to graduate school,
Mm-hmm.
by scientists. Not to say that everybody should go to graduate school, but it seemed to make sense for me, at the
Mm-hmm.
time. And so I got opportunity to go to UC Davis, got a master's degree in ecology, and focused my thesis on urban carnivore conservation and impacts of urbanization on Southern California urban carnivores specifically. And so that is kind of the education path that I took,
Mm-hmm.
and then worked for the federal government, after that, and state government a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
and then eventually ended up with the Natural History Museum, which is really a really great fit for me, because as I've kind of grown in my career, I've evolved from a person that's just focused on doing the research that I think is the coolest and that my scientist peers think is the coolest,
Yeah.
but also trying to figure out what the community is interested in and how we can meet their needs with our research as well. And I think that's the direction and path I'm on right now, with a lot of work that I do. Yeah.
Yeah, and you can learn all about Miguel's current, body of work at the museum by visiting P22 Wonderland. There's a natural history museum section there, and there's a lot of great videos where you can learn about his bat research. And there's some other presentations by folks at the La Brea Tar Pits on mountain lions. So be sure to check that out. All of that material is going to be available after today, so don't worry if you can't get to everything in the same day. But that's great, Miguel. In a lightning round, I know you wear a lot of hats. Like, what other hats do you wear? I think you're on the, yeah,
Yeah.
I'll let you do that. But like, let's do a
Sure.
lightning round.
Sure. Yeah. And I mean, as far as if you want to learn about my career a little bit more, at 3 o'clock, we'll be doing a more detailed presentation about it. But as far as other hats I wear, I'm on the board of the Friends of Griffith Park, which is a
Mm-hmm.
really great organization that is trying to keep this public park, accessible to everybody and preserve the wildlife that live in it, and make sure that it is a park for people, for recreationists, but it's also,
Yes.
treated and managed for wildlife as well, which isn't really the history of the park. So that's what we're trying to push for. So and then I'm also on the board of the National Wildlife Federation, which is backing this whole Save LA Cougars campaign. And that was kind of my connection to NWF, in the beginning. And now I'm doing a lot of work helping this organization, which is a national organization, to make, outdoor spaces safer for people of all backgrounds, especially the BIPOC community, trying to, create roundtable discussions, so
Mm-hmm.
that we can get to the bottom of what makes these places safer for a wide, diverse audience, and what type of legislation do we need to support people that are being harassed or worse in our open spaces. And so I'm really proud of my involvement with the National Wildlife Federation as well. So yeah, those are the main hats that I have right now, at least.
Great, Miguel. And for those of you who are not aware, Miguel is also on our advisory committee at the
Oh my goodness, sorry.
as well. No, it's been a long day. This is one of our busiest days of the year, so no worries.
Yes. Yeah.
So Miguel brings all of his skill and expertise to us as well, and you know, he's really a great asset to us at the Cougar Conservancy as well. So thank you so much.
Yeah, can I say a little bit about that?
Oh, sure, yeah.
Yeah, I think Cougar Conservancy is really great and needed because there is this disconnect from what wildlife managers do and even scientists do and the interaction the public have with cougars, mountain lions. And so I think there is a need in LA, especially as we continue to build into their habitat and have increased not conflict, but interactions with them.
Yeah.
Make sure that people don't misinterpret these interactions, these encounters, and also we can really keep these relationships between the general public and these wildlife management agencies healthy. And because if it's not healthy, then and we're not communicating with each other, that doesn't help anybody and doesn't help mountain lion conservation. And so I really am proud of that with the work that Cougar Conservancy is doing and what they aspire to do.
Awesome. Thanks, Miguel. I mean, now, you know, it's 2:05. I don't know if you have a few more minutes or you want to, you know, do a lightning round of a few more questions.
Happy to answer it if they're still coming in. Yeah.
Oh,
sure.
Yeah, we're not going to be able to get to all of them.
Oh, okay.
We have a lot of questions coming in. But someone is asking, you know, P22 is 10 years old. How much more time does he have left?
Yeah, life expectancy for mountain lion is 15 to 20. If really best case scenario, usually actually 10 to 15. But in captivity, I've heard they can live up to 30 in really pampered situations. But in LA, I mean, the life expectancy is low.
Yeah.
But especially that they're most vulnerable when they're at dispersing age or younger than that. Once they reach adult age and establish a territory, then they're pretty good to go, unless they decide to cross a freeway. Then all bets are off. But
totally.
But yeah, that in between age, that young teenager age is a very dangerous time for them because that's when the large older males will be coming after them, and they're not as experienced when they'll be trying to cross freeways, trying to find a place for their own. So. But if they can get past that, which they unfortunately don't very often, they're good to go. Yeah, good question.
Cool. And yeah, P22, like all bets are off for him. Like he's just such a unique case. Who knows? Maybe he's around for a lot longer. Maybe we have him for another 10 years. Wouldn't that be nice?
Oh my goodness, that would be amazing. But
it would be.
I think he's in a very unique spot where he is kind of not quite in a zoo, but definitely not in a natural situation with regards to the natural dangers that pumas usually face, which is getting kicked out by another male or killed by another male. He really doesn't deal with that danger unless a male does come in, which there is one right across the 101. But excuse me, yeah, the 101. But he does have a lot of dangers. A very urban park, a lot of people that he can encounter, and not to say that they're going to hurt him or anything like that, but if they perceive this interaction as a dangerous interaction,
totally,
then that can be dangerous for him. Also, there is still the use of rat poison, sadly, in the park, and he's already nearly died from rat poison. And nothing much has changed. There's less second anticoagulant, rodenticide, which is the most toxic rat poison out there, less out there. But still a vulnerable situation for him because he doesn't know a toxic raccoon from a clean raccoon. And he's eating raccoons and coyotes on still a regular basis. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, people wanted to know too, what's his favorite snack? What's his favorite food?
Deer. I think it's Park Service told me like 88% of his
Okay, so the
diet is
majority.
deer. Yeah, the majority of his diet is deer. I think early on, at least, when looking after at the kill site data, it was male bucks, so the large males were his favorite. Maybe because there's just more. Almost said a really bad pun there. Bang for your buck. I just said it again. But it has more meat, bigger animal, so maybe that's why he was going after that more, at least early on. Now he's older, so maybe he knows he's going after smaller deer and fawns more often. But who knows? He looks good to
Koalas.
me.
Someone said koalas in the chat. Yes, he did.
Yes,
He
yes.
did do that. Do you want to say just a little what happened for people who don't know?
Yeah, so he went into the LA Zoo, which he rarely does, if at all. Other than this time, he went in the zoo.
Mm-hmm.
He grabbed a koala out of the exhibit. That was an older koala that liked to be on the ground. So a lot of people are thinking that because he eats raccoons, that are little
Mm-hmm.
small gray things on the ground, he might have confused it for that, and that kind
Yeah.
of made him want to go after that. But in any case, he took it out of the exhibit, consumed a little bit of it, maybe didn't like the eucalyptus taste, and left it there. And um, and it was kind of this controversial thing that did P22 do it? And it seems like based on saliva samples, it was him
It was
that
him.
took the koala. But it was a great moment because the zoo could have been like, hey, this is a threat to our collection and we need to
Mm-hmm.
get this mountain lion removed. But they
Mm-hmm.
went in another direction and said, hey, this is kind of on us. We need to protect our wildlife, or excuse me, our collection of animals better within our current context, which is we're in the middle of Griffith Park, which is an urban wildlife
Mm-hmm.
oasis. And there's bobcats and coyotes and a mountain lion. And so we need to do our part, just like you do your part to protect your pets, protect their zoo animals. And they have made some changes, and I'm really proud of how they responded to that.
Yeah, that's a great story of just what coexistence can look like now and into the future. And, you know, acknowledging that we live in cougar habitat and taking certain precautions just to prevent, you know, negative encounters, not just with cougars, but with other wildlife. So a lot of our programs at the Cougar Conservancy, we help people do exactly this. And so visit our website, cougarconservancy.org. And we have a conflict hotline if you ever need assistance as well. And so someone is asking, we'll do this really quickly. And then I know you have to go because I'd like to give you a break before your next event. I know you've been back to back on events, so I don't want to go too over. But someone's really curious to know if bears are going to be using the wildlife crossing. And I think that's a great question because we do have bears in Southern California. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so there was one incident of a bear that was documented in the Santa Monica Mountains. I forget what year it was. It wasn't too long ago.
Mm-hmm.
But then that bear either went right back across north or died. I don't know. We don't know. But yeah, it was just a really quick incident.
Mm-hmm.
So this crossing, though, I mean, it could
Yeah.
provide opportunities for them to cross. I mean, to be honest, um, it is. They're more in the Santa Susanas than the Simi
North.
Hills, north of the Simi Hills, and the crossing directly connects basically to the range, Simi Hills range, which is
Mm-hmm.
right before the Santa Susanas. So they have a little bit of ways to go for the most part, but it's very possible. Yeah, one black bear already crossed without the bridge. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Yeah, that's a great interesting it's an interesting case to think about because while bears may not necessarily use the crossing right immediately, you know, it's interesting to think about in 10 years or something, are there going to be, you know, established populations of black bears in the Santa Monicas, and how is that going to potentially impact other species who are living there like mountain lions? So it's just an interesting case to kind of try to think about.
Yeah.
So great questions from everyone. Miguel, I'd like to thank you for your time, but I want to give you another, second to end with anything you'd like to end with. I know you have a lot going on, but is there anything you'd really like to tell the audience? I see in our audience today a lot of students, but also people tuning in from all over as well. So you have kind of a broad audience.
That's great. And what I would like to say is I want to make myself a resource to as many people as I can, especially up and coming conservation professionals. And so please do not hesitate to contact me. Please join us at 3 o'clock if you're available. There'll be more opportunity to learn about what I do then. Visit our Naturalist Museum virtual exhibit page, where I have a lot of videos about the work that I've done, the bat research that I really need help with here in LA. And if that's not enough, or even if you just want to keep the conversation going, please email me or contact me on Instagram, and I would be happy to talk to you about any question you have. So yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Miguel, for your time. Happy P22 Day. Thank you for everything that you do for wildlife and for human communities. We really appreciate you. And we will see you guys all at 3 o'clock if you'd like to join us for more of a presentation style at the Natural History Museum of Los Angeles County Facebook page. So we'll see you there at 3 o'clock. Have a good one, everyone.